Lawyers of Reddit, what was your oh shit moment in court? Sat in on a personal injury case where the plaintiff broke their leg in an accident and had a doctor on the stand as an expert. The woman's lawyer begins questioning the doctor about their experience with leg injuries. He was a well-known orthopedic surgeon in the area. She asks if has ever treated a tibial fracture. The leg bones are tibia and fibula, to which he only answers no. Then she starts grilling him with questions about the tibia. After about 6 to 7 questions she asks, how did you get a medical license and have been able to practice medicine this long if you've never treated a tibial fracture? And begins a small rant about going after his credentials and those that gave it to him, to which he simply responds, there is no bone named the tibia. The lawyer became beet red and everyone in the room tried their best to keep from laughing, including the judge. I was representing a plaintiff in a hit and run case. Plaintiff is testifying and is, despite me preparing them for several hours the previous day, an absolutely terrible witness for her own case. Like, she couldn't even identify the street she was crossing when she was hit by the car. It was a major highway, and we had gone through the sequence of events countless times the day before the hearing. The oh shit moment came during cross-examination. Defense counsel pulls out a picture of my client dressed up and ready to hit the club, which was posted to Facebook the day after the alleged accident. I, thinking quickly, object because the timestamp refers to when it was posted, not when it was taken. Defense counsel show the picture to my client and asked her when the picture was taken. Sure enough, they say it was taken the day after the accident, when she was supposedly in unbearable pain. Oh, shit. When I was in college, I was a bailiff. Guy is on trial for murder. First witness testified that she saw the defendant shoot the victim. Second witness states the same. Police officer testimony is that he arrived at the scene and defendant was there holding the gun. Coroner testimony is that the first bullet hit the victim in the arm, the second bullet hit the victim in the torso, and the third bullet hit the victim in the heart, which was the fatal shot. Defendant yells out, see, that proves that I didn't kill him. I only shot the motherfucker twice. I think this qualifies, though it wasn't me, that was the lawyer. Got called for jury duty. Was at the jury selection phase, and they asked if anyone here thinks they should not. Blah blah. Defendant was in the room. I raised my hand. The defending lawyer looked at me like, oh, this ought to be good, and asked me to explain. I suggested I tell them in private. He insisted I tell the courtroom. I said, okay, I probably shouldn't be on this jury because I was on a previous jury for this man which returned a guilty verdict. Lawyer's face went oh shit. Commotion and a wait while they looked up records. Yep, verified. Whole jury was now tainted. Everyone goes home and they start over. I was involved in a pretty messy custody case. The other party was a mess and had kept the child from my client for a few weeks. Op was playing lots of stupid games and kept requesting continuances. I requested a drug test, which the judge ordered. However, the op didn't show up for it. To clarify, he did show up. He just stood in front of the toilet for literally 2 hours and claimed he couldn't pee. I was representing the plaintiff, so the burden was on me. I called multiple witnesses that testified to the defendant's drug use. So, opposing counsel decides to call their client for direct examination and asks, you don't use heroin and crack, right? That is, for the non-lawyers, a very stupid question for many reasons. Especially considering his client didn't show up for his drug test. However, I fully expected the defendant to just lie and say he was clean. After the question was asked, there was a really long pause and the defendant said, yes, I do both of those drugs. My head almost exploded. I didn't ask any questions on cross-examination because I didn't want to muddy the waters. I won, and the child is doing great. Not mine, but my boss's won. She had to defend a small-time delinquent as duty solicitor. Before going to court he asked her what he should do. She explained to him, if he was cooperative and truthful his sentence would be milder. After hearing the case the judge asked him if he wanted to add something. He got up and explained to the judge, my counsel told me to be truthful, so I wanted to tell you that I not only did the robbery I'm being heard for but also several others in the region. He continued to admit to several robberies that had been unsolved yet and everyone, even the state attorney were facepalming. Literally the first thing I ever did was just a law student intern. Guy has a legit defense on a drug possession case. Drugs found in a jacket. Guy wasn't wearing jacket. They were going to have a very difficult time proving the jacket belonged to my guy. Had a long meeting with client. Explained everything. Client was excited. Day of the preliminary hearing. Guy shows up and sits down directly in front of the officer who arrested him. While wearing the jacket in question, the exact same jacket we were going to say they couldn't prove belonged to him. Not in court, but at a tribunal, and also I was plaintiff, suing for wrongful termination. My rep, so you terminated him, because he was ill? Employer, yes. Mr. And he was ill because he's disabled? Employer, yes. Mr. So you fired someone for being disabled? Employer, yes. Edit, formatting and a word. Was in court for a directions hearing. The judge was already in a bad mood and asked why we were here for such a seemingly pointless litigation without giving details. He was right. The barrister starts to make our case and I'm taking notes about areas we need to further explore when I hear. Excuse me, why were you so rude to me? The client, who had been told to not come, had come to court that day and was evidently incensed by the judge questioning the merit of their case. They berated the judge for about 3 minutes, with me and my co-counsel first stunned and then trying to shut them up before he adjourned the hearing. The case did not go very well, to my client's surprise and fury. Big sigh. Not me but my former law partner. She was in court representing a client, I think in a hearing for a restraining order against her soon-to-be ex-husband. Our client was telling the judge that when they met to exchange the children for visitation, the ex had kicked her. He immediately angrily shouted, she can't prove it, I didn't leave a mark. Thanks, buddy. Probably the funniest one I ever came across happened to a colleague. We were prosecutors then 18-year-old defendant applying for bail. He needed a residential address and got his dad to show up at court to confirm that the family home was available to him. Defense lawyer gets old dad to confirm that son can stay at family home. Dad says yes. My fellow prosecutor gets up and asks dad, do you really want him home? Dad goes off the deep end. Backquote Jesus. The grief he's brought me and his mother, out all hours, taking drugs, hiding stolen property in the garage. All night parties. I'm on antidepressants and the wife's had a nervous breakdown. Dad goes off on one for 5 solid minutes. As the defendant gets taken back to the cells, he calls out backquote thanks dad, I owe you one. 2 moments in a DUI trial. 1. Passenger is testifying for driver's sobriety when the DA asks her, you keep saying he was sober, but are you even TIPS certified, a course for bartenders, so they can recognize drunk patrons? She was. 2. The head of the county's blood lab accidentally admitted he cranked the sensitivity of his machines way up because he was experimenting. Obligatory anal, but in a pre-mediation meeting once for an uninsured motorist claim an insured had alleged that she couldn't walk without the aid of a cane and had a pronounced limp after an accident due to a low back injury and a shooting pain in her right leg. The doctor notes didn't support anything but a subjective injury after a few weeks, but she was still treating 2 years later and going to new physicians. So, we had her followed covertly to see if she was really using the cane and had a limp, etc. We got footage of her carrying like 4 grocery bags in each arm to her car in a Walmart parking lot, walking perfectly fine. When she got to her car she even opened the trunk of her SUV without putting any bags down, and lifted the gate with her knee part way. Her elderly mother was with her using a particularly decorative purple cane with a flower pattern on it. They followed her to a doctor appointment an hour later, and she's on video using her mother's cane, and walking with a limp that would give Forrest Gump a run for his money. Never did follow up on how that played in the mediation, but I can only imagine it gave some attorney an oh shit moment. Person I was representing was on trial for assault in the 3rd degree and DUI. In my state, A3 means you've assaulted an aid worker or police officer, and is a felony. The allegations are that he was very verbally abusive to the officers and, at one point, kicked one in the face. We are sitting at the defendant's table and the officer is testifying about the statements my guy made to him, including some pretty horrific name calling. Out of nowhere, my client screams, "You're a fucking liar. Fuck you, you son of a bitch." We lost that trial. Another time, the judge asked a client whether anyone had coerced him into pleading guilty, and he said yeah, my attorney. I about shit my pants, but he laughed and said, "I'm joking. No,